upon the breakout, gold's going to make a new all-time highs.
Gold-backed ETFs seeing inflows of over $5 billion.
$0.8 trillion gold market.
Why are we the only guys that seem to understand this?
Makes your head spin. All right, everyone. Hey, this is Shane Moran. I'll be your host for today's edition of Live from the Vault. My name is Shane Moran. I'm excited. I'm fired up. We have two very special guests, along with Andrew Maguire, on this call today. So let's get started with our first very, very special guest. It's none other than Mr. Eric Maine, who's the Chief Strategy Officer at not only ABX, but also Kinesis. And tell you a little bit about Eric for those that haven't met him already. He has over 30 years of experience within the financial services, from physical OTC derivatives, trading on structured financing of base precious metals, and exchange management. He's a proven innovator within product development, product management, and also project management and relationship management across financial classes. And so one of the things that I noticed, not only is he the Chief Strategy Officer at Kinesis, Chief Strategy Officer at ABX, but in the past, he's also been the Senior Managing Director of Bullion Capital and the Director of Market Development in the Hong Kong Mercantile Exchange. That's pretty impressive. I'm really fired up to have you on the call. And also, he was the Head of Product Development and Management for SGX, the Singapore Exchange. Hey, Eric Maine, welcome to the call. I'm fired up and excited.
Thanks very much, Shane. Yeah, it's good to be here, and happy to be able to share some experiences of what we're going through, and to highlight, where we expect to go. So happy to do it.
Awesome. Let's start off for the benefit of either people that are just getting started or companies or government organizations that are just learning about Kinesis. Maybe tell us a little bit about your background and maybe introduce yourself to the community, and we'll start from there.
Sounds good. Yeah, so this will tie it all kind of together in this roadmap of discovery that led me to ABX and to Kinesis. So that you said 30 years. It's almost 40 years now, unfortunately. But, so I started out in the 80s and 90s in New York as with the bullion banks. Okay, physical trading gold, and in the investment banking side as well, structuring mine financings, doing loans with central banks, and hedging programs for mining firms, etc. So that was a long stint of 15, 17 years of doing that. And, by the time of the late 90s came along, gold had been for several years in quite a bound range, $300 to $400 an ounce. And the only money being made is in some of the funny ways that people talk about with bullion banks, and didn't sit very well with me. And that's for another conversation, but just know that I know intimately things that happen within that sphere, even that long ago, and it obviously continues to today. So after that long stint, I then moved on to, I bought the majority share of a public relations and lobby firm out of New York that had been in existence since 1955. And I took my contacts from central banks and governments through the mining entities, and brought that to the table for lobbying of countries to do various things within Washington. And in addition to foster investment from investment opportunities from those countries, that kind of allowed it to go on to its own path, and I was involved in and out, and wasn't necessarily involved on a day-to-day basis. And I was itching to get back into the financial, more financial space. And that's when I got into the exchange space. And that started with, in New York again, with the New York Board of Trade, which became ICE, and headed up their product development and bringing new markets, structuring new markets for the exchange. And then 2008 came along. We had the financial crisis here in the U.S., and it became quite clear that by that time everybody knew that really where all the action was, not only in commodity space, but in every asset class, was in Asia. That was where all the growth was. And they had come out of their own financial crisis some time before, and they were going full guns by 2008. And so I was recruited to go out to Asia and build out derivatives and physical commodity markets in the exchange space in Singapore. So I lived in Singapore for 4 years. I ran the commodity business for Singapore Mercantile Exchange, a startup, and then moved to the National Exchange of Singapore, SGX, and did the same in Hong Kong. And so this is about 2012 now when I started to have conversations with Tom Coughlin. Yeah. ABX had just started up the year prior, and he and I began talking, and it really got my juices flowing, and it felt almost like a perfect storm for me, right? Here we have a entrepreneurial business, which excited me. It was global, which is, you know, my past experience and with many governments and countries. And most importantly, it was a combination of physical spot gold, which of course I had done for 15, 17 years in New York, and the exchange space where, you know, I was intimately involved in regulatory issues and compliance and exchange technology and how to build out markets in various product lines and assets. So those combinations of things together was really, you know, as I said, a perfect storm for me. So I was really excited to join ABX. I've been with them since 2013, early 2014, I think. And it's been quite a ride. And then, you know, as we moved on from ABX, which is still ongoing, of course, it's the backbone of the institutional space of the gold underpinning Kinesis. You know, Kinesis goes to the next level of really completing the picture for, you know, all different facets of payments and gold and infrastructure, and it's really, really, really exciting to be part of that. So that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, I know that on the that's great. So that for our new community members, it's a great introduction. So they have a bit of a background here. And I know that a question that everyone's going to want me to ask is if you can give us kind of a perspective about Indonesia and the projects that were involved, or Kinesis is involved with now in Indonesia.
Sure, absolutely. That's the crux of why we're on this call. Yeah. So just preface it with this. Look, as the chief strategy officer, I'm traditionally looking at 1 to 2 years out on you know, putting out the vision that Tom has and the rest of the ABX and Kinesis team, where we need to be 1 or 2 years from now, from a marketplace standpoint, from technology, from personnel, all those things, looking at big picture 2 years down the road. But because of my contacts in Asia and Indonesia in particular, I took the role of spearheading these initiatives in Indonesia. So, and happy to do that. It's really quite amazing what's happening there, not only from our perspective, but from their perspective as well. So let me give you a little piece of Indonesia and then fold it into what we're doing. So for those that don't know, Indonesia is, you know, the 9th largest economy in the world. It's got 260 million population, which is the 3rd largest in Asia after China and India. And the median age is about 30, which is quite a bit different than most other developed nations. So they have a great growth potential and trajectory already. But, you know, in context, they still are struggling. They're still, you know, a developing nation, notwithstanding all those good pieces. And part of that is, you know, they're underachieving in their foreign reserves. They're in particular in their gold reserves. They recognize that. They're saying to themselves, look, we're the 9th largest economy. We should be having, you know, foreign reserves and especially gold reserves that are quite a bit higher than they are. And that's a goal of theirs, and which we could talk about probably in a later webinar how we're going to get there with that, with our help. But Indonesia, from our perspective, is, you know, it's a big gold market, okay, but the challenges is that it's much of the current gold trade is underground. It's unofficial, and there's a couple reasons for that. And what we bring to the table help to waylay those and to bring it up above. And this is one of the things the government wants to do. So some of the issues of why it's underground is there is taxation, even on small, on fabricated gold and even small gold bars, etc. And the second thing is confidence. There's still the mentality of keeping the gold under your bed, going to the pawn shops and utilizing the very small little kiosk shops almost, where they have a little safe in the back, and people feel kind of comfortable with that. So there's a confidence level of not having a centralized place to keep their gold, and the result of all this is that the prices are really bad in Indonesia. They don't represent the international price. The cost of gold, when you unpack it all, is quite expensive. And so the goal for us is to bring, you know, good prices and confidence, such that they can look at gold as an investment in a little different way. And one of the pieces of that, of course, Kinesis is a great driver of great prices, because we're taking it from an international perspective, and with liquidity providers and et cetera that provide us really good pricing. So that's an immediate benefit to those that want to do savings and investment in Indonesia. The confidence piece is around, for us, is around the Kinesis vault. And we'll get into that in a secondary webinar down the road. But it is an integral part to the success of bringing this gold up above the in the official sector. So there's three elements in Indonesia that we're concentrating on, right? One is savings and investment. We just talked a little bit about. The other is, in particular, this remittance business, cross-border value, we call it, because when we do a value from one country to another for all the migrant workers that are sending money home to Indonesia, we're doing it in gold, not in currency. So this is why it's not really a remittance. It's a transfer of value, of asset. And on the front end and the back end, it translates into currency. But in the middle is Kinesis with the transfer of value of gold. So that's the second element. And then the third is around payments, how, you know, using Kinesis, integrating with merchants and different elements within the society to create an efficient and cost-effective way of doing payments online. And I should mention that while Indonesia, there's, you know, 60-70% are underbanked or unbanked population, everybody, 90+% have a smartphone. And they are, because of the median age in Indonesia being around 30 years of age, they're very open to using technology in a mobile space, and that will only grow. And that's a key element for what we bring to the table as well. So that's kind of an overview of what the Indonesia situation is, and then we can get into a little bit about, you know, what more specifics of what we're doing.
Well, one thing, Eric, that I hear of, or that I read a lot of, and that I've read a lot about is whenever Indonesia comes up, something called PT POS comes up, and maybe you can explain to our viewers what is PT POS, and more importantly, what's the influence that it's going to have on the country and the influence that it's going to have on Kinesis.
Sure. So PT POS is the government state-owned post office. Yeah, it's I believe it's the third largest postal service in the world, and it's been around for a long time, even before it was Indonesia and Batavia. It was, so this postal service has been around since the 1700s, actually, and they are a strong strategic partner of ours. They and let me just preface this all by saying I've never been involved, and I've been involved in a lot of government and national projects, both in the mining space and in other spheres in my lobbying background. And I've never seen so many different entities within the government, commercially, institutionally, come together for a common cause and a common goal. You always have, different influences happening with different government entities, juggling for their own power, et cetera, and institutions not having the same mindset as the government. And that's not the case here. And this is what's beautiful about this, is that all these things are coming together from different segments within Indonesia. So PT POS, as the government post office, is the largest non-bank financial institution in Indonesia. They are the largest landowner, because you can imagine they have like 20,000 plus sites of postal bricks and mortar. But they're also quite sophisticated in the mobile space. So they have a mobile payments platform called GiroPos that everybody, not everybody, but a good size of the population uses. They are the go-to place for those that are unbanked and underbanked to go and pay their utility bills. They have interfaces with utilities, whether it's telecom or electricity, etc. They are the place where people go to pay their national health insurance bills. They're ubiquitous within the Indonesian society. Yeah, and so this is a strategic partners of ours, and they are looking to facilitate a couple things together with the other partners as well, and that is all three of those segments, and that is the gold savings and investment, the cross-border value remittances, and payments. And the way they're going to do that, and what I'm here to talk about today is a mobile app that's been developed that integrates with Kinesis, called POSCO. Yeah. So if you'd like to hear a little bit about POSCO and what that's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what I would like to do, Eric, also while we're on this topic, is maybe just reiterate the actual incredible size of what we're talking about. This is not a small, and this is one project. We're talking about one project, but maybe just talk about the size and the scope of this one particular project that we're working on, of many.
Yes, and there are many. So PT POS, with them, hitting those three segments, because they're kind of ubiquitous within the country, they have millions and millions of everyday active customers and clients, and that lends itself to the ability to bring a gold trading and gold savings element, even in very small increments, as we know that Kinesis can facilitate. In the cross-border space, look, they're already in the remittance space. The post office, they are a fairly big player in that space, but they know there's a lot of room to grow in that. And the first corridor that we're going to assist them with is the Malaysia-Indonesia corridor, where there are 3 million migrant Indonesian workers that work in Malaysia in various capacities, mostly low-wage type jobs, and every month they're sending money home to their families. And it's small amounts. They send about $400 a month average US dollars a month home, but aggregate that's $1 billion a month is flowing from Malaysia to Indonesia. Yeah, it's very big, and it's very expensive. They're taken advantage of by the Western Unions and the MoneyGrams. They could use, if they had bank accounts, which most of them do not, the banks do facilitate remittances, but it's even more expensive. So what we bring to the table is real cost efficiencies and ease of use. And this is being integrated into the POSCO mobile app. Yeah. So,
and Eric, I think that was one of the main challenges that they were trying to solve, is how do we allow these remittances and help our citizens reduce the fees their fees every time they're sending money back home. And I think Kinesis just is the perfect solution for them.
It just blows away the competition. And what you have to remember is that there are two elements within the Malaysian workforce that are Indonesians, and there's official and unofficial. So most of the workers in Indonesians in Malaysia are unofficial. And what that means is they don't have official work papers. They don't have sanctioned government IDs and so forth. So they can't use traditional methods anyway. They can't even go to the banks because they can't get a bank account because they don't have the proper working papers. Yeah? But through a system of aggregators that we're working with in Malaysia that are Indonesian companies that have a wide footprint of retail businesses within Indonesia where Indonesian is spoken and so forth, and they gravitate to. Those are the partners on the Malaysian side that we're integrating with to help facilitate this cross-border value remittances with PT POS on the receiving side for all the family members in Indonesia. So yeah, quite exciting, quite a big project. And so I guess I think we should now discuss a little bit about what the POSCO app is.
Yes, exactly. What is it and how does it work, and what are the numbers that we're expecting in the near future?
Sure. So POSCO is a mobile app that has many functionalities, and the integration of Kinesis for the gold savings, for gold investment, and for this cross-border value and payments is just one element. It's an app where people can go and pay their utilities online and many different functionalities like that they would just use everyday basis. And shopping, they're integrating with jewelry companies so that they can buy jewelry online. And some of these, this is a sequential thing. Some of these will be integrated with Kinesis right from the beginning, and some will be, phased in as things move along. So, I guess to give a little bit of a idea of where we're at with POSCO, right? So, it's already the technology from our side, Kinesis side, and the POSCO application side is. The technology is all done on both sides. We're in the middle of what we call PIT testing, post-integration testing, which is a few days of testing. That's going to happen next week. Everybody will flow in orders from both sides, from our liquidity providers, from Kinesis, etc., to make sure that everything flows nicely. And then it's set to go live by the end of this month. So that's good news. They estimate, look, the post office the PT POS has 20,000 plus employees and 70,000 postal agents that act on behalf of the post office, because there are so many islands and so many towns and cities across Indonesia. It's a big thing. And so those accounts, those people will be mandatory of setting up POSCO accounts. Yeah. So these aren't our numbers. These are the post office numbers. They anticipate that within the first 6 months they'll have 100,000 accounts active. Okay, and one important element of this is that I don't know that's been shared before is every one of these accounts. When you sign up for a POSCO account, you automatically get a CIMB, which is a very large Asian bank, based out of Malaysia, but very big presence in Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, etc. One of the biggest banks in Asia. Every POSCO account gets a CIMB, KYC, AML bank account associated with it. So right away, you're helping the unbanked and underbanked. And the KYC is very easy. It's just their national ID card, the photo, the same kind of things that we do, but it's all automated for us. So we don't, on our onboarding process of 100,000 accounts, it's very easy because they're all pre-KYC'd AML. Then in addition, so that helps with money coming into the accounts and the trading, etc. And then the money, the off ramps, the other element that's integrated within the POSCO app is this POSGiro that I mentioned. It's the payment gateway that the post office has, and that's integrated too. And that's a big facility for on-ramps and off-ramps for these people, because they're already familiar with using the post office for many different things, and many people use POSGiro now. And that POSGiro is also tied in with the national banking system for many banks. So if you did have a bank account, you can transfer between POSGiro and any of the local banks. But you can also take money out and et cetera. So it kind of goes the whole gambit, in, out, and it's it's really exciting that Kinesis fits right in the middle of all that. So sometimes we struggle with what's going to be the on ramps for getting money into the system. What are the off ramps for getting money out of the system? Mm-hmm. And the gold and the trading and all that happens in between. Well, this has it all together at once. So that's really cool.
That's amazing. Now, Eric, I know that this is not a simple, it boggles my mind when I look at just this one project alone. I know there's many others, and I want to kind of give people a hint at what else. We'll talk maybe about another project, but just before we do, this is not simple. This is not something that is like going to the store and buying a loaf of bread or something. This is a very complex and complicated process. Maybe talk about, before we move on to the next topic, maybe some of the obstacles and some of the challenges that were faced in putting this all together.
Sure. Look, so Kinesis, we're designed to be dynamic, flexible. We can kind of be mobile in what we do and how we address business lines and et cetera. But governments don't work that way. We all know that. And so one of the main challenges is when we get a timeline, it's not a timeline that we're giving. It's a timeline that the post office, for instance, has given us, saying, okay, we're gonna be able to launch this January, okay, and find out that things happen behind the scenes in the government actions and so forth, and that they're not able to come with hit their deadlines for whatever reasons. This is the way the government goes. The other thing is they tend to act very sequentially. So while POSCO will be integrated with Kinesis right from the beginning and going live this month, the cross-border value piece, they want to get this going first. Then they want to pivot to, okay, how can we, commercialize the cross-border value remittances business after it goes live. So that's why we're saying, and in conjunction with them, that will be, by the end of next month. So there's still some work to be done on the Malaysian side of integrating with what we call aggregators, who are going to be facing all the Indonesians and Malaysia to facilitate the cross-border value. So just to give you an example of some of the one more obstacle type thing. So anytime we have an agreement, and we have several agreements with the post office, not just for Kinesis, KAU, but also for the vault, et cetera. Every time there's an agreement with a foreign company, because they're state-owned, they have to have sign-off from 12 board of directors, and many of those are external non-executive directors who are running other companies and other state-owned companies. And try to imagine, get 12 signatures from these people, diverse people in different cities and doing different things. It's quite a challenge and takes time to get over the line. Even a simple non-disclosure agreement, for example. So those are the kind of challenges. But as I said from the beginning, look, they are focused and they are committed. And as I said, I've never seen a partnership with so many different government entities coming together for one purpose. So it will happen, and it is happening, and we're excited to be a part of it.
All right, Eric. Well, really appreciate that update. I'm sure everyone's excited about hearing this news. And let's maybe as a bonus, maybe talk about one other project and that we're hearing a lot about, and that's the NU and the NU Gold project. Can you tell us or maybe share some insights on that?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, because they kind of run in parallel. So Nahdlatul Ulama is the otherwise known as NU, is a big social and religious organization, and the largest in the world, largest Muslim organization in the world, has 100 million members. And they also are strategic partners of ours. They're a shareholder, just like PT POS is, of a shareholder in the Kinesis Vault project, for example. So we're bringing lots of different elements together for various projects. But NU, again, it's built on the same platform as POSCO. So all the elements are basically the same, except they don't have the cross-border value element because they're not in the remittance business. But gold savings, investment, there's even financing elements where people can finance collateral financing of their gold holdings. Both these platforms, POSCO and NU Gold, have integrated with 4 banks that have set up credit lines for small amount of people to do small amounts of collateral financing of their gold holdings, so they can take loans out against it, etc. So all the facilities of paying utilities online and automated payments, etc., are all part of this NU app. It's just different branding. The POSCO app and the NU Gold app look similar. But a couple of the elements that are a little bit different is, NU is a social organization. They're not a corporation. They're a nonprofit entity. And so this NU Gold, which will be a for-profit entity, needs to have a structure around it. So when I was there last 2 weeks ago, I had a meeting with the Secretary General of NU, and we agreed that we would set up a joint venture company with NU and Kinesis, and that joint venture company would hold the asset of NU Gold mobile app. Okay, so we'll be a shareholder in that application, and this is very big, this NU Gold, because with 100 million members, again, their estimates, not mine, not ours, they expect at a minimum 500,000 accounts within the first 6 months.
Wow.
And the way they do that is fairly, the way they can say that is fairly simple. Of course, it's only a small percentage of 100 million, but it even goes deeper than that. And that is that NU, the way they're structured, they have a corporate structure in Jakarta with officers and religious leaders and people who promote the goodwill and the charitable organizations that have. But there's also NU offices in every Indonesian region. There's several regions, and each of those regions have an office, NU office, with officers and leaders. And then each state has their own NU offices with leaders and officers. Then each province the same, and then each city the same, then each town the same, and each village the same. It goes all the way down the line, down to the village level. And so when you add up those insiders, so these aren't the general everyday members. These are people who are intimately involved in the organization from a leadership or officer position. You add those numbers up all the way down that line, that's 1 million people in itself.
Wow.
So that's why they say, minimum 500,000 accounts. It's going to be very easy to reach, because it's mostly these officers and leaders who are then charged from the top to, have everyone participate, and they're incentivized to get everybody else, lined up. So this will be very big. 500,000 to 1 million is just the beginning, and it will be quite huge. And they will be promoting, as we do, the idea from a national standpoint of a traditional asset that Indonesia, as well as we know, most of Asia covets gold as an asset class. And here's the ability to do so a lot cheaper than what they're paying now, and with a lot more confidence, because their government is behind it, their organization like NU is behind it. You couple that with a Kinesis Vault that is owned by these different entities as well as shareholders. The confidence level just creates a whole ecosystem that will really be quite amazing.
And so from Eric, my understanding then, based on both of the projects that we talked about, is that it seems like the project will launch with kind of like the inner core, although the inner core in the in the POS situation is more 70,000, and the inner core of the NU project is a much bigger inner core, and from there it rolls out to the members and to the customers. Is that correct? Or?
Yeah, exactly, and that's why it will grow exponentially, right? Because these are insiders from the beginning. First couple of months, you'll see a lot of onboarding of those types, and then it takes time to do the marketing, which they're going to do, and we'll be alongside them with giving them content and information, etc., to roll out marketing programs. They'll have incentive programs, etc., to add these mobile apps and to espouse why the gold, and they'll be able to see right online how good these prices are compared to what they see, in their local towns or cities, and it's really quite amazing the price difference. Plus the ease of getting in and out of those positions online. Yeah, so yeah, it's going to be big, and I should mention the NU Gold app will be launched by the end of next month. So
wow, that's huge. Two massive projects coming on. I know what you're saying about the prices, Eric, because I've been looking at silver and gold, physical, okay, not paper, but physical for many years, more than 10, maybe even 12 years now, and I have not found a place anywhere in the world that I can buy physical gold for less than I can at Kinesis. I still haven't found it.
Absolutely.
And so that's amazing to bring that to a country that you're saying from the beginning. I didn't know that Indonesia had their gold prices were a little messed up, or a little on the higher side, what people have to pay for the gold. This is going to be a gift, and it's a win-win-win all around. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. So those are the updates. PT POS this month. I'm sorry, POSCO this month, and NU Gold next month. Cross-border value through the POSCO app by the end of next month, commencing. Those are the key updates that I wanted to get across today, and there's a lot more to come.
All right. Well, just in wrapping up here, Eric, I want to ask you a question here. What do you see for the future? Like, look out maybe a year, 2 years. No, let's go 5 years in the future, even up to 5 years. What are you seeing from where you sit?
Well, and I think it'll be even quicker than that, right? So we have a few other projects that are in of course, the Kinesis Vault piece, and that's maybe about a year away from being operational. We can do this on another webinar, but we've signed the heads of agreements with the shareholders, being the government and our vaulting partner, etc. But next webinar I can give an update of where that really stands and timelines. And the another initiative is this hashtag Gold for Nation, and this is coming directly from the vice president and president of the country, who wants to make gold a national asset that people covet, and in a way that is inclusive, efficient, price effective, and they want to make it. And Indonesians, as you can tell, because of some of these religious organizations and social organizations, they tend to work together as a collective group and as a collective nation. So when the government says, let's have everybody in the country buy 1 gram of gold, because they love gold anyway, that becomes and you can just imagine that there will be different groups and entities that will have competitions among themselves of saying, okay, and you got to 80% of membership, participating in hashtag Gold for Nation with 1 gram each. What about your organization? And you can see that will trickle down to lots of different facets within the economy. But even more than that, as part of that initiative, it's envisioned that there will be a slight price premium to that hashtag Gold for Nation, that 1 gram price. It'll still be way under what they currently see on the local markets, but that additional small percentage, maybe 1% or 2% premium, will go directly to foreign reserves and gold reserves to build up the gold reserves of the country, which, you know, helps everybody because now you have less influence from the outside that's affecting their debt markets and their currency inflationary markets. And so it's a collective, let's do this for the country kind of thing. So that's one other initiative. And that, I would say that's, you know, that could commence this year. And then, but, you know, really gaining force the year after and the year after, et cetera.
That's huge.
Then
Eric, you know, the first time I was talking to our CEO, Tom Coughlin there, and he mentioned exactly what you were talking about here about they're thinking about making it almost mandatory for people to buy at least 1 gram of gold per year. And my question was, why would they do that, right? Why would they do that? It was kind of my tone, like, why would they? And Tom answered, and it almost shocked me. He says, Shane, because they care about the people. They care about the people in their country, right? It's like, wow.
And the people care about,
well said.
yeah, exactly. And the people care about the country. They, as I said from the beginning, they're the 9th largest economy in the world. They see themselves as up and growing and up and coming, but they see themselves, you know, lacking in maybe recognition of that fact in the world. They're not given the kudos or the respect of having that large an economy. And as I said, they're undervalued in what gold reserves they have, which would help stabilize, you know, any inflationary difficulties that they go through from outside influences. So that's the other one. Then the final one I'll say, and again, all these things we can talk about in a bigger context in another webinar.
Yes.
Is the Hajj Capital Fund, and what that is, you know, every year there's the Hajj pilgrimage to Mecca, but it's at a particular time of the year, and sometimes people have to wait 10 years before they're able to go, and it's also very expensive. So they save a little bit every year, and over time they're allotted their space where they can go on their Hajj pilgrimage, and there's a government entity that facilitates the savings and financing of that, and that's called the Hajj Capital Fund, which has $7 billion US of assets under management. You know, every year money goes out and money comes in, and on average they have $7 billion worth of assets. And we're talking with their top management to allocate some of that into gold, and we'll talk about that in the next one of what the timelines of that and how that's going to shake out, because that's also very big.
All right, so you will come on another show with us. I know there's going to be a big demand, so we'll bring you on for another update in the near future. How's that?
Love to. I go there every month now. It's a little challenging from New York to Jakarta every month, but you know, there's just so many things happening there, and it's happening in a you know, constructive and collaborative way. And it's moving fast, faster than I would have expected, given the different components that need to come together to do this. So it's great stuff, and we'll keep going, and happy to update whenever you like.
All right. Thank you so much, Eric Maine, for taking the time to come and update the community. I know they're going to be fired up to hear about this, and we look forward to the next webinar when you join us. So thanks a lot for our guests. You've been listening to Eric Maine, the Chief Strategy Officer for Kinesis and ABX. Thank you very much, Eric, for taking the time today.
Sure. Happy to do it. Thanks, Shane. Take care.
Right, thank you. All right. Thank you, Eric Maine, Chief Strategy Officer for Kinesis. That's awesome. I'm pretty sure the entire community is all fired up by now after that update. And we have another special guest coming on in a few minutes here. But just before that, it's my pleasure to bring you Talking Gold with the one and only Andy Maguire.
Wow, Eric, that is amazing. Thanks for that immensely important progress report on the Kinesis Indonesia project. I think everyone's going to have to agree. This is an extremely exciting development for Kinesis. And I know there's just so much more to come. It's hard to actually contain oneself. But Eric, thank you so much for all the hard work you've been putting into this. Look, there's very little time this week. It's only a short amount of time to fit in this update, because between Eric and, of course, there is a very, very special guest upcoming. So I'm going to keep this fairly much, in summary form. But in our last look at the markets, that was the 28th of January, actually, we looked at the primary drivers that was going to tell us to expect far higher US dollar price gold this year. And I know this is close to a lot of people's hearts. Now, what we looked at 3 weeks ago, was one, how the millennia gold, how in this new millennia, gold has outperformed every other asset class bar none. We looked at, this was the very, very early stages of the pandemic, if you remember, and really there was a huge amount of underestimation by the markets as to how gold, how gold was being affected by this, and it was confusing a lot of people. And really, we would fully expect gold demand to always increase in times of uncertainty, which of course it does. Thousands of years tell us this. Now, we also covered why we knew gold would not trade below 1550. And I know this was very important for a lot of traders and investors. The reason we knew this was because we had visibility into the lack of offers to sell physical gold in the wholesale market. And this continues to be the case, I can assure you. Now, the other thing is, fourth thing we looked at was, we looked at how gold is managed by central bankers in the foreign exchange markets, along with every other currency cross, and how that kind of segues into the COMEX futures markets. And really, finally, we kind of looked at how this inverse correlation between buying the ES, which is the S&Ps, which is really a proxy for the stock markets, and that used to be the form, in other words, it used to be buy one, sell the other, i.e. sell gold. And this we looked at how this correlation was broken, not breaking, but broken. Now, so that we can use this short time ahead to look ahead to the next anticipated gold leg. Now, if you missed the rationale on these observations that we just summarized, I'd just encourage you to go review the last webinar. Now, as far as the gold update is concerned, we need to address the elephant in the room. Something I'm getting dozens of calls on, and I'm sure is confusing a lot of the media when they try and rationalize why gold is not rising faster than this into what is a black swan event, and why have the risk markets, as proxied by the S&P 500, counterintuitively ballooned to a succession of fresh all-time highs since this pandemic commenced, seemingly completely blinkered to virus-driven supply chain disruptions, and worse, the stock market rallies have completely discounted global growth uncertainties. So the answer is that central planners, namely the Fed in this instance, controls 95% of the stock market flows. Now, this is overriding all fundamental inputs by they do this by stepping in to take the long side of every single seller, swamping offers to sell, and driving stocks to a succession of sequential daily highs. Now, this is confusing a hell of a lot of people, and the news wires are just all over the map on this. But what these blatant counterintuitive risk-on moves illustrate is that free markets have been finally morphed into managed economies. This is a big thing. And as far as the multi-decade official gold price suppression scheme is concerned, the Fed has really painted itself into the corner. Now, the unfactored pandemic has simply accelerated the process of a US gold price appreciation. Now, the necessity to actively prop stocks from an unthinkable collapse is actually going to backfire on officials who've previously bet against gold, erroneously. However, propping up stocks versus buying new bonds, which would be to replace maturing paper, ultimately drains liquidity from the entire market, which in turn will ultimately burst this stock market bubble. So in the interim, gold is going to rise alongside stocks, which is what we looked at this change in behavior in our last webinar, with that correlation breakdown. And we're evidencing efforts to prop stocks as ultimately the result of this to propel US dollar price golds into $1,900 highs, which we saw in 2011. and to hard test those. Now, I'd love to add more color to this. So next time I'll dig into a lot more detail, but very short term, and I think this is what people want to know now. What's happening this week, next week? One thing we know is that the commercials do not want gold below 1565 at options expiration on the 25th of February, which is only next week, after which the likelihood of a gold breakout above 1600 becomes ever closer to the front burner. Now, with virus escalations continuing and global spin masters on their heels, we anticipate quantitative easing euphoria, which is the result of obviously these slowdowns and the global slowdown and the supply chain interventions, obviously going to affect Fed policy, which it hasn't yet but will. So this euphoria will drive further highs in stocks, but this will also assist bonds, commodities, and gold. So medium and long term, we anticipate gold price in dollars to test all-time 1,923 highs, which they were tested in 2011, and to play catch-up to gold priced in every other single currency, all of which are making all-time highs. Just go and take a look at a euro chart. And this could not be a better time to invest in gold and silver, though. And Kinesis brings this borderless currency to us for everyday use globally. And that's something that Eric was really foreshadowing. Now, each of us using the Kinesis system becomes a part of the solution to address what is a broken banking system. And that's really what we're looking at here. And we can all claim a stake in this only sound money basket that defeats the law of money, which is Gresham's law, something that Shane talks about a lot. Just come and join us. Become a part of this solution, guys.
All right, Andy, thank you so much, and bye for now. And now, ladies and gentlemen, something we've all been waiting for. We have the visionary, we have the CEO, and the genius behind Kinesis, Mr. Thomas Coughlin. Welcome to the call, Thomas.
Thank you very much, Shane. It's good to be back. It's good to be talking to the audience again. Thank you very much.
All right, I understand right now you're in South America. Maybe bring us up to date. What's happening down there in South America?
Yes, certainly. So firstly, I want to humbly apologize to our community for having to delay this webinar because actually we were supposed to record the interview with me going back a couple of weeks ago, but I got terribly sick. I had tonsillitis and I didn't have a voice. And then we had to move some meetings around and people are flying in and out. And at the end of the day, just that small window of time that we had just before the interview, as you recall, last week, we had to actually cancel it. So I wanted to humbly apologize to the audience for that, but also just remind them that we're doing the very best on our side to keep communication open. We've obviously got these webinars happening every couple of weeks, bi-monthly, and we're going to keep that going. And it's a concerted effort on our side to relay as much information as we possibly can without compromising from a commercial perspective the organization and the development of the system. So yeah, here I am in Buenos Aires. Basically, what we're doing here is building out our Latin American operation. So we heard from Eric before with Indonesia. What we're doing here is building out our LATAM operation, and basically with ground zero being Argentina. We've got a lot of different things happening all throughout Latin America, but we've actually recently appointed a head of Latin America, and that'll be announced shortly. And we're doing the same thing in different parts of the world. I think some of our community is aware of our Christian Roche, who was also, he was previously appointed as our head of Africa. And we're doing similar things in the Middle East and other parts of the world, obviously, as well. We've got, a little bit of an Asian focus and, rolling out through Europe and the US and the likes as well. We have a real sort of regional focus, but, there's always an importance to have like feet on the street with those established, built relationships, contacts and trust that here on the ground. So that's effectively what I'm doing here is like laying the foundations for, building out our organization here. And I'm happy to, to state that, already we've got government deals underway here, signings happening of contracts here, and of course, putting together our strategic partnerships in a certain region that allows us to ultimately bring online that marketplace, that region. And what is a strategic partnership? It is, like an organization that, that whereby we deliver like mutual sort of synergistic value to each other. So in our case, we obviously deliver a very unique monetary system. In, say some of our strategic partners cases, they might be bringing on and off ramps from, fiat into our system. For the particular region, it might be debit cards, it might be online banking facilities, and the like. So yeah, that's effectively what I'm doing here.
Awesome, awesome. Well, maybe for the benefit, Thomas, of our newer members, maybe we can start the call off by talking about how ABX began leading up to Kinesis.
Yeah, certainly. So, yeah, I think, seeing it's been a little while since I connected with the community, I think it serves to sort of run through our heritage, our history. And, just listening to Eric Maine before, that's, he gives the evolutionary sort of story as it pertains to him sort of coming into the ABX and Kinesis journey, so to speak. So yeah, rewind back to ABX days, and ABX is allocated bullion exchange. It's an institutional exchange for spot physical precious metals, and it's global. Obviously, tens of millions of dollars and years of development have gone into developing that business, partnership building, and that all went in before Kinesis was even conceived, I guess, going back, I think founded in 2011, but at early 2011, but really all the plans were being drawn out earlier than that. And, it took, ABX was an evolutionary story in its own right, starting in Australia and then evolving to be a global business. There were many a roadshow done around the world, meeting with all different levels in the precious metals industry. So from, the broker dealers to basically, the big top tier bullion banks, central banks, the second and third tier bullion banks, and understanding what, there was a lot of, I guess, research that went into building out ABX, which then translated into the development of ABX. And, understanding, it was so interesting in obviously, basically, the market intelligence gathering phase of ABX, learning what ABX meant for different kind of participants in the precious metals industry all around the world, from the mines to the refiners to the intermediaries, being brokers, dealers, banks, and what they all do for each other. Then the consumers, be it the jewelers, et cetera, et cetera. And what we built out with ABX actually at the institutional level was something that provided real world value to different participants in different regions of the world. And, that's evidenced by the fact that, we've got government deals acted on behalf of some of the largest entities on planet Earth. They're plugging into obviously our system. We've got large institutional deals, the likes of, say, Deutsche Börse through European Commodity Clearing, that plugs into 400 plus entities in the commodity trading space. And these are the largest entities in the world that ultimately that will be coming online in the not too distant future. It's been a massive project and undertaking by them, because even in the case of Deutsche Börse, this is one of the larger projects they've brought on, be it a multi-jurisdictional project, which every single little, thing from every jurisdiction, well, all the legal sort of parameters need to be all boxes ticked. Like, I think it's 9 different jurisdictions around the world. So that takes time as well, but that's coming online, and that alone from, the ABX days, actually, once that comes online, there's an interface between ABX and obviously Kinesis. And that's conducted through what some of our stakeholders and participants understand to be, our EPD process, exchange physical for digital. So yeah, that's sort of like where we started, like with ABX, and of course, as you know, and you were also, we knew each other going back in ABX days. Obviously evolved to sort of, I guess, the 2.0 generation being Kinesis. And so, yeah, that's sort of like, yeah, I guess the summary of ABX to where we are now.
So really, ABX started off as, and it still is, it's purely physical gold and silver. We're not talking about paper. We're not talking about any tricks. This is physical gold and silver in vaults all over the world. And then, I was just thinking, it was only 2 short years ago that you had your event in St. Moritz, and I was invited to attend that. I cheerfully went, and where you unveiled your the blueprint back in St. Moritz, and I'll tell you, I want to thank you because I haven't slept in 2 years properly. This is such an exciting project. I've been positively addicted to the Kinesis project since the first time I saw that blueprint and I read through it. And that's back again. It's kind of hard to believe. It's only been 2 years, and the leaps and bounds and the strides and the reality that's becoming a reality today is it's unbelievable. So how does it go from ABX and all of a sudden the maybe talk to us about how Kinesis, what was the thought process there from ABX to Kinesis?
Yeah, sure. So actually this, and I remember obviously St. Moritz very, very well, Shane. And I still feel bad to this day because, as you know, yourself included and a few other members sort of flew from around the world and couldn't even get into the event at the end of the day. And obviously we had a partner who was actually our vaulting partner who got us into the event, and I was up all night. I remember sort of finishing off the presentation and then presenting it, and it was extremely well received, which just gave everyone a huge amount of energy just to follow through with it all. And what the premise of it all was, because I'd seen other projects, and even before ABX started, the whole sort of the vision of it all was to see like a transformation in the monetary space. But I understood the limitations, right? So as you clearly articulate through your video, which I think is amazing. Because of Gresham's law, if I value gold as an asset, as a currency, then why would I use it as a payment currency? I wouldn't use it as a payment currency. But with the advent and invention of blockchain, and obviously we were watching the evolutionary process with that from early days, which were attached to even nefarious beginnings, but the libertarian sort of nature of it all and what it facilitated in like the decentralized arena where 2 parties on different sides of the world could be connected up anonymously, and there's no central governing force there that can take control. That was obviously highly attractive, but we're still presented with the same problem, being Gresham's law. And, figured out an incentive structure whereby people are rewarded for actually using their money. It's almost sort of like once I mint and then send, spend, or sell it, I'm sort of setting it free, bringing it to life, and then I get to benefit from it. And that's really what I sort of saw as the major pivotal factor in making the decision to really embark on this, and then seeing the army of support come in behind us just from those very early days was astronomical. As we had like a full-on entourage there in St. Moritz, and And yeah, to think going back in those days, I remember that was, you know, like late January. And then I stayed there and basically hammered out the blueprint document. I remember I basically wore out my little laptop computer that I had in hammering that out. I had to learn how to use all the charting and everything like that. And it was a learning experience putting one of those documents together anyway. But look, I want to sort of pause at this point and say, like, it's you know, because it's been a little while since I connected, it's been, you know, a hell of a ride over the last while. We've had some delays along the way, but you know, with where we are and what we've done over the last 2 years, I think it's what we've accomplished is really beyond any organization and then that I can sort of see that has started up and from start to finish within 2 years. Not trying to blow our own trumpet, but if you were to take into account everything, be it deals, be it all of our legal framework set up across the world, be it, you know, the operational mechanics and procedures and policies, be it obviously what we've developed on the technology side, albeit we have had some delays there. Of course, we've all had to have patience there, and I apologize on behalf of the entire team for the delays. But, you know, we're doing everything we possibly can, and we have done everything we possibly can to remedy that, restructure, consolidate, put ourselves on a much stronger footing and foundation to move forward. Obviously, you know, we had some issues with our when we launched with the technology. There are a few bugs in the system. There were some performance issues. We think that, you know, we've largely ironed that out at this point, and simultaneously of ironing all of that out, and in parallel, we've been building out a lot of different other projects that have been behind the scenes, integration projects, integrating into banks, integrating into debit card providers, integrating into, you know, strategic partners with large user bases. That's yeah, that's sort of, you know, where I think we found ourselves. And, you know, so I look at, say, you know, even our team spread across the world today, and we've got a massive global footprint, you know, whether it be in Africa, LATAM, Europe, Australia, Asia, it goes on. We've recently expanded, you know, just by way of update, our technology team dramatically. So, you know, our internal team spans from Brisbane, London, Sofia in Bulgaria, onto South Africa. We're just building out a new South African team out of Durban now as well. And there might even be another one coming on in Cape Town as well. And so we're really looking to accelerate development velocity. And by doing so, we've focused in on, okay, how can we do that? One, you know, it's really not enough. And, you know, we had a bit of lag as far as just basically rapidly building out a team, because everyone needs to sort of be caught up to speed and trained. And then it takes resources to train, you know, obviously, you know, new recruits coming in. You know, we obviously want to foster excellence within the team and have that sort of leadership that inspires excellence and attracts excellence as well. And this is something that we've really focused in on. And in addition to that, specialization. So we've broken our teams out into different task forces that specialize in different either programs or projects within the organization. So we've now got these specialized task forces that have been just really focused in on their particular project. We've got this monolithic piece of, you know, like code that I don't know how many lines of coding it is. And for a new recruit to come in and, you know, look at all that code, it's a bit sort of overwhelming and overbearing. So that's why it's like important to get them focused in on, you know, various aspects and get them specialized in on it. And that's really what we've been doing. And look, right now where we are, I've never been more excited. I know I'm a little bit biased, but it's comforting to be where we are right now, which is in a position of stability and strength. And now we're basically leapfrogging forward and pushing things out. It's going to be a very exciting year, I think.
Well, I'll tell you, you know, Thomas, from the time I saw the blueprint 2 years ago, about 2 years ago now, I'm in awe at how massive this project is. I know you've got so many projects and deals and deal flow going on. Maybe we can spend a few minutes and get your insights on a couple today while we have you on the call here. And the first that you know is on our mind, of course, and Eric just talked about it. Maybe give us your viewpoint on Indonesia and the massive, you know, in this massive project in itself.
Yeah, Indonesia is a very interesting project, and actually it's attracted interest of all different sorts all over the world. Obviously, we had, you know, Sergio Fernandez de Cordova on a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about it as it pertains to, you know, the United Nations and the foundational work that he does. And it's really being used as a case study within, like, say, the United Nations channels, the World Bank channels, and different areas to show like how successful a public-private partnership can be. You know, and it's considered to be, you know, one of the more important public-private partnerships in the world today. And it's monolithic. It's obviously the biggest in the space. I've had some people sort of say in my ear that, you know, it could become the largest even ever. But, you know, let's see how it all goes. You know, it's an amazing project at the end of the day, and it's only at its initial phases. And ultimately, it's an ecosystem that's been built out between, you know, government, exchange, post office, banks, religious associations, and it's connected together like so many different groups that have all just got behind it. It's obviously like amazing. And what I find so brilliant about it is it's something that can be basically not only it can be leveraged, of course, but it's beyond even just leveraging now, because it's being pointed at as, you know, such an amazing example that, you know, what we're finding is it's a matter of copy and pasting sort of what we've done there, or various different components of what we've done there, and putting them in other regions in the world, other countries of the world. And, you know, we have other deals with countries and governments signed. We have other deals with cities signed, like, that goes back to some of the work that we're doing, say, with Sergio on the smart city side. And all this will come out, obviously, you know, like, hey, I would love to, you know, come out and say, oh, we got this, and this, and this. But as far as releasing it, and names and everything like that, we have to be, you know, all the boxes need to be ticked, and it needs to really go through the full process and basically be at time of launch almost that we're announcing this. So yeah, that's what I'll say on Indonesia. As far as, you know, bringing in other, you know, deal flow and everything like that, I think that, you know, and what I'll say here is, and what's really important for our community to understand is this: we have a high level commercialization strategy, and this is a sequential strategy. Of course, we'd love to sort of bring it all online immediately, you know, just like, you know, perhaps we build Rome overnight, or we boil the ocean overnight. But that's not possible. So we need to take a very sequential, step-by-step approach. We need to crawl before we walk and walk before we run, obviously. And it can be a frustrating, you know, process of patience, but you know, ultimately that is what is required. And at different points in time, you know, it's about keeping all components or functions within the business up to speed with each other. What we've had is the commercial and partnership side and really running a lot faster than what our technology can keep up with. So, you know, we've had to, you know, take stock, consolidate, focus on getting our technology development up to speed and accelerating. And that's what we've been doing. You know, it's basically, well, that's one thing that I've largely focused on, and the executive team have been largely focusing on. And our community is going to see some rapid improvements there. Of course, as you bring on new teams, as I said, there's a bit of a time lag. But then, you know, it's like revving the car up and dropping it into fourth gear. It starts slowly, but then it will start to go fast, you know, and that's sort of where we are. So, you know, with regards to our commercialization sequence and where we are, we only provide value to one market at this point in time, and that's the gold market, the gold and silver market. And that's a very, very small population of the world that actually truly appreciate and have an affinity towards gold and invest in gold. I think I've heard, you know, statistics that only 1% of people actually invest in gold, which is sad because, you know, I think it should be, you know, pretty much everyone, considering the benefits that precious metal brings to an investment portfolio. But the next step, so everyone's aware, is to deliver value to the crypto markets, right? Where if you look at the titans in the crypto space, it's the exchanges. We're actually, you know, beyond just being an exchange, but it's the exchanges. And in doing so, to have, call it a saleable or marketable solution to take to the crypto markets, we need to build out a bit more yet, but that is coming like super soon. So what do we need to build out? We need additional crypto wallets and crypto pairs, and we need additional fiat wallets and fiat pairs. That comes through, you know, basically, you know, building out the wallet system for different blockchains, be it, you know, Bitcoin, Ripple, Tether, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, etc., into our system, as well as bringing online different bank accounts that accept you know, different fiat currencies into the system, and then obviously building out those pairs on our exchange. Now we've got these integrations and the build out of these pairs underway and in full stride right now, and you'll start to see that come into play, you know, within the next month, and it'll be gradual, and then you'll see, you know, more and more and more and more, and that obviously starts to open up different markets of the world. You're going to see new bank accounts come into play as well, for different currencies in different regions in the world, and this is very important. Now, the next step, obviously, beyond the crypto markets, as far as our commercialization strategy is concerned, is building out value for everyone of adult age, at least. And this comes from ultimately allowing Kinesis to be, you know, a true monetary system with debit card and payment facilities that can be used across the world. Now, we've got deals signed, sealed, delivered, and with integrations underway right now, which enable that. Debit card issuance in certain parts of the world, but also now debit card and banking facilities built out across the entire world, both virtually, right? So you can, you know, use your phone, like with the near frequency contact, NFC technology, or with debit card, and across the world, and also with mobile banking facilities. So people within our system will have bank accounts for their different, like, fiat wallets, and that's a bank account that is particular and specific to them. You know, there's a lot of backfilling going on as well. Like, say, for example, with auto minting, you know, at the moment, there's, you know, a bit of lag time with regards to the interface between at the Kinesis Mint and our exchange, just with basically connecting legacy technology from ABX, which is the mint, up with the newer technology being the exchange. So, you know, that development is also underway through different respective teams as well. And that will create the ability for basically instantaneous auto minting. So anyone who wants to be a minter in our system, and trust me, we will be properly promoting this over time, but we don't want this, you know, that poor user experience of having to wait, you know, for a certain period of time to do it. We want that automatic. We want it streamlined. Then we'll be promoting the hell out of it, and then you're really going to see a lot of minting going on in our system. Obviously, as the community knows as well, we've been working on bringing in institutional EPDs. There are a few final things done there. Obviously, we've got our insurance in place, including terrorism and internal embezzlement. Really ticks the boxes there. But there are a few we need to bring in, you know, a professional director out of Switzerland to be in the entity and to set up, you know, basically bring online new bank accounts in Switzerland before all of that sort of was squared away. That's really, really close now, and you're going to see that institutional bullion come in. So yeah, I mean, I'm just sort of rattling off and running through things off the top of my head, but yeah, I'll take a pause there, Shane. If you got any questions?
No problem. No, that's great. That's great. A lot of information here. I guess one of the key components, and I call it almost the magic of Kinesis, is the entire yield engine that brings everything together. Maybe talk about, and that's what really defeats Gresham's law is that entire yield engine. Maybe just spend a couple minutes talking about the yield engine and how that comes together.
Yes, certainly. So yeah, with the yield engine, that is in development, as I think everyone understands, and that is set for implementation in Q2. That's something that obviously, you know, we completely understand as one of the more important facets and components of our entire system. And that is set to be delivered in Q2, and with that, you know, the KVT holders will receive their yield, the minters will be, you know, receiving their yield. All the different stakeholders and participants in that yield engine will be receiving it. As we all know, you know, there's the KVT holders receive the yield, minters, holders, depositors, and referrers. And that's an incentivization system at the very core of Kinesis, but there's going to be something overlaid over the top, which connects into and incentivizes the broader ecosystem and debit card and payment usage attached to an expanded loyalty and rewards program, which is being also built out right now. As you can see, we've got a lot of balls in the air that we're juggling at the moment, and you're probably going to they're going to happen in rapid fire throughout the year, and it'll be one after the other after the other. You know, we're going to have a large sort of PR and press presence and marketing, but let's just get to the next stage first, and that's the logical sequence there. So yeah, that's what I'd say on the yield engine and incentivizing everyone there.
All right. Now, Thomas, are you able to tell us a little bit or give us a little sneak preview of some of the strategic partnerships that you're working with? I know some of it is confidential, NDAs, all that stuff, but anything that you can share regarding some of the potential strategic partnerships would be great.
Well, there's a lot underway. And when I say a lot underway, look, I'd hazard a guess of about, 30 deals done at the contractual level, and effectively, we're integrating at the technological level and bringing it all in. And a lot of them, as I was saying, are in the banking and payment space. But it's not just us, Kinesis receiving, banking or, these facilities. It's us providing our solution to these partners. And these partners are the largest in the spaces in the regions where we are, so, you might get a good idea of some of our strategic partners just by sort of looking into, the largest payment agents, gateways, debit card providers, banking providers, etc., digital banking providers in different regions in the world. So it's not just us, basically, partnering with them to get their services. It's a mutual joint thing where we put through our like gold and silver current yield bearing currencies to them, and they put it through to us, their services to us, and there's that mutual value provided there. And it's really interesting to see what some of our partners are doing. They have so much confidence in the yield in our system that they're even going out and putting together programs to their customers on guaranteed yields. So, where we might be forecasting X percent, they'll say, okay, we're prepared to take that punt. We'll bring it a little bit under that and guarantee the yield to attract the capital in, and also facilitate to get it moving as well. And it's really interesting what we have rolling. So okay, I'll take one because I think the sort of the rabbit's out of the hat here with regards to this one. One of them is a large established mobile banking and debit card issuer, also tied up to the most elite debit card service on planet Earth. As in, to get in, you have to have a minimum $1 million spend per month. And, it's a tremendous cost to actually just pay for it. So we're going from the elite end of town, right? These guys also bring in the unbanked and underbanked. We've got a full mutual exclusive partnership with them where they bring our digital currencies in, and we're the only ones that they can, that they're able to partner with in the crypto space and in the precious metal space, obviously. And so let's just take the elite end of town. And, it's interesting, right? Like, because a lot of royal families are already using this service. I understand there to be 100 ultra high net worth clients already using it. It's only new. So basically 100 billionaire clients already using it. They've got deals already with, say, Emirates. They've got the deal with Emirates is, 2,000 of the top first-class flyers in the world that spend over $1 million per year flying, and then 15,000 of their platinum card flyers as well, where this will be rolled out, and with Kinesis currencies as the primary core currencies. In addition, deals have been done with MasterCard and Visa card for Visa and MasterCard to basically hand over their top 1,000 users initially, and then to assess and to bring over more. So, we're taking out that high end of town, the ultra high net worth guys, and at the same time, we're providing value to the underprivileged and underdeveloped parts of society. It's really interesting. This card, which, I guess all the celebrities of the world are going to love sort of showcasing this card because it's super exclusive. Literally every card holder, a card maker gets flown out to their home, and they design their card together. It might be, pure platinum, pure gold, or a mix of both, diamond encrusted, all that sort of stuff. But so that's one end of town, right? But imagine the amount of capital that gets driven into the system and then gets put into motion just from that end of town. We've got the lower end of town covered. You spoke to Eric Maine before. You look at some of the statistics around Indonesia being a developing nation, but also, being the 9th largest economy on planet Earth, the efficiencies created. And, we're just at starting point, and then it's going to grow and grow and grow. Effectively, what we're doing at that governmental level is providing it's smart social solutions. So, as I've sort of spoken about at the United Nations before, you know, yeah, a farmer, doesn't have to find their way to the post office to pay for cash, which it might be, like riding a horse or, I don't know, a donkey into the post office or walking to the post office to pay for cash. They can do it on their smartphone. 90% of the population in Indonesia use smartphones. So, and then you just keep on plugging new services in. So it might be blockchain powered ATMs in the post office. So, the cash handling is minimized. It might be even expanding into telecommunications, and for it to all be there in one application. So, yeah, that's on the deal flow side. I mean, I'm just sort of touching on things at the moment, but it goes on and across different industries as well, because, some of our community might have seen, we started with a deal in the travel space. We've got a health deal. We've got, and it goes on and on, ultimately, and basically this is the start of a broader digital economy building, like an ecosystem that can provide like social services at your fingertips to citizens, people across the world, and to empower those people. So,
all right. Well, speaking about mobile, Thomas, maybe talk a little bit about the excitement of the release of the Kinesis app. I know that it's in the final stages of beta right now. The reviews have been awesome. Maybe talk a little about the new app.
Yeah, of course. And I think that with, as far as the development of this app, I think that we've done things right. And it's been a pleasure, working with Alejandro and his team at Shockworks, who's also, they're a strategic partner of ours as well. And we've scaled up to quite a large team with them now, I think around 75 people. This app, I think, serves all the purposes of what I was saying earlier as far as our sequential commercialization strategy being rolled out. So next step is to provide value to the crypto markets, and it's a little bit, it's got the exchange in it. It's a little bit complex and things like that. Some people might find that, but that's what people in the crypto markets are looking for. They're looking to trade. So that's what you'll get. Eventually, as we progress to develop out more infrastructure, bring online these other strategic partnerships, you will see a simplified version of the application that just facilitates easy, streamlined payments and banking and etc. on that. So yeah, we're obviously very excited to roll that out, and looking forward to getting even further feedback on that as we roll it out. But everyone needs to understand that that it's an evolutionary process, and all this development won't stop. So this is first phase rollout, and it'll be going, it'll just only keep on building and developing and at a faster and faster speed.
All right. All right. One of the things that we do want to talk about, and I know we'll bring several topics up maybe on a future call, but what about, things like the website, Cool Wallet, and the debit card?
Yeah.
We put all those three in one.
This is something, I'm looking forward to. I don't know whether the community knows or not, but we're releasing a new website. A lot of effort has gone into building out this website, and I think it helps to communicate the full depth of our organization and the system, and as it sort of pertains and how it's relevant to different stakeholder groups, whether it be at the private individual level, whether it be at the business level, whether it be at the institutional and government level. And, I think that this website really steps through things in a very logical and also sequential way, with our, with videos. It's got the store attached to it where people can buy the cool wallet, obviously. There's, information there, and obviously encourage people to, use that cool wallet because it's interfaced into our gold and silver currencies. And so, yeah, and that's imminent. If not this week, next, I'm probably putting my, foot in it, but it's done, and just undergoing some final tests. So yeah, that's where we are with that.
All right. Well, that's exciting. All exciting things happening, moving fast, moving forward. And I want to ask you one more question as we wrap up here. Maybe talk about your vision of where you see Kinesis moving forward, maybe in the next 1, 3, and even 5 years.
100%, Shane. So first and foremost, we need to actually build out all components to get that, end-to-end closed-loop monetary system that, that I wish was built out earlier, but it's taken obviously a little bit of time. But we're dealing with a large business here, large global business. I don't think any other global business has as big a bones as what we have. Let's put it that way. So, we want to complete all different components, including, of course, and we haven't mentioned, what was termed the Kinesis Commercial Center. Development on that is also about to start, and that should be something quite fast. But we'll keep everyone updated with that. Obviously, everyone knows what's coming as far as the debit cards. That's going to be global. And we love the fact that, we've found the right partners there. Unfortunately, these partners are not easy to find. I wish there was like some Google search you could do and find these sort of, like banking and debit card partners, but you've got to really get involved in the industry and really go looking for the best sort of solution providers. And then, they need to have faith within your organization and the value that you can deliver to them. And then it becomes something very strategic where, we're tying up our two organizations, providing value to our different users and making it happen. So first step is to, over the coming sort of 6 months, we should have, the full closed loop monetary system there, which is exciting times where someone's going to be able to pick up their phone. It'll have a bank account attached to it, a debit card attached to it. I'll have, even a virtual card here where I'm going to, and, it's automatically debiting my gold or silver currencies. I'm being rewarded. I can do auto minting and mint all day if I want. And then, go spend it, my currencies, and everyone's rewarded. For there to be a really cool loyalty and rewards program around it as well, which I sort of see as the supercharger that sits over the top of our already sort of highly incentivized system, and people will be rewarded from that. But there's something even bigger that's underway. There's a broader ecosystem play, which is we're bringing in these partners from different industries all over the world, and they're going to be plugging in, and ultimately there's a sharing of users and a sharing of services and solutions to each other, and we become funnels of users for each other as well. And there's a broader ecosystem play. I think everyone here has picked up that that's a large part of our commercialization strategy, being integrations into other user bases, other platforms that we see like philosophically and ideologically aligned with ours. And that's very much so of the libertarian mindset, standing up for the freedom and the liberties of the everyday person. And any other businesses along those lines that are really looking after the freedom and the liberty of the people, I think are ideal partners for us. And so sort of what we're finding at the moment, and I just want to remind everyone that we are a startup company in a startup industry. And normally it's not easy to, as a startup company in a startup industry, it's not easy to find, large established companies and institutions and governments as partners. But we've done it. We're doing it. We're doing it on an everyday basis. We're signing governments. We're signing large established organizations. We're signing, innovative, disruptive companies. And that goes on, and nothing's going to stop us now. And as we bring online more components, then, the snowball just continues to roll and get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's going to be a very rewarding evolutionary process for all to sit back and watch and participate in. And I think we're all super excited about it. Of course, we've had a few sort of delays along the way, but in the grand scheme of things, it's really nothing. And, it's been 2 short years from start to now. Well, I'd like to see looking back in another 2 years' time, for example, and that's going to be a completely different picture. You're going to be looking at millions of users. You're going to be looking at a whole global alliance of partners, that are subscribed to the entire, have an aligned vision, aligned philosophy. And it's going to be an extremely rewarding, process to not only, just watch, but participate in. And what can I say? It's exciting times. We're here and we're moving forward.
That's awesome, Thomas. I'm fired up. I mean, I'm sure on behalf of the entire Kinesis community, I want to thank you for taking the time. I know you're in meetings after meetings, and you've got another one coming up soon. So we really appreciate you, Thomas, coming on here. I know the community is going to be excited. Look, if you have any questions, fire them off down in the chat below or in the comments below. And I know that Kinesis corporate team is going to get all the questions answered as soon as possible. But Thomas, thank you so much for taking the time today to join us here on Live from the Vault. And we look forward to hearing from you again on the next on another episode. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
Bye for now. Thank you. Bye. All right. I hope you enjoyed this edition of Live from the Vault. Hey, look, for those who are interested, this is the last chance to earn your share of the $645,000 worth of KVTs that are being earned as of February the 29th, 2020, this year, just a couple of weeks. The first 500 competition is going to be concluding. And so this is your last chance. If you want to earn your share of the 645,000 of KVTs, all you got to do is complete these 3 tasks. All right. Number 1, complete the entire educational series, the 11 learning videos and the questions. Okay. Number 1. So complete that learn and earn. Number 1. Number 2, refer a minimum of 10 people. Okay. Refer a minimum of 10 people that also complete the learning series. And the last thing is you just purchase a minimum of 1 KAU, which is about $50, around $50 USD. All right. And so with that, make sure that if you are a US resident, that you need to be accredited. All other countries are eligible for this particular competition, but the US residents must be accredited. Just wanted to throw that in there. So there are thousands and thousands already registered. So now's the time. Get started. All you got to do is go to my.kinesis.money. That's my.kinesis.money. Open up a free account. You'll get a link and share that link with people you know, companies you know, or even government organizations that spend, hold, or even send money, at least occasionally. So with that, thanks a lot, and we'll see you the next time on Live from the Vault. Bye for now.